Am I a racist asshole for holding those boundaries and breaking the lease? Trigger warning. Miscarriage and abuse mentioned. And I tend to agree, if you are asking, you are it. So I guess I'll learn something one way or another. This is like a fucking novel. I wrote it in Notepad on my phone so the grammar and punctuation sucks. I hate when people write these and some detail in the comments changes your mind, so I tried to put it all out there. Some stuff was cut because it's so freaking long. So my bestie and I moved in together. Yes, one of these. We thought we knew better. We'd been friends for 25 years. Over periods of time we had made comments about how cool it would be to live together, but it never happened due to different partnership dynamics, commutes, etc. We both seemed to be in life positions that would benefit from cooling together and renting a house. She was out of an on-off abusive, toxic relationship. She said it will be great, he won't even know where I live. We begin talking more about this as being a possibility when her lease is up in 6+ months. We discussed budgets and how we are splitting rent. She has a kiddo that would be getting their own room, use of utilities. I was anti to that kid and had more financial security, so I agreed to split everything 50-50. We talked about areas we would consider moving to. My friend clarified that she would need to be in a place for 3 years as her kiddo was going into middle school and would not want her switching schools in the middle. As time goes on, my dating partner and I become more serious. Spending nearly every night together, eating dinners together, spending all of our default time together, etc. As such, my partner and bestie also became very close, even kiddo and partner. Prior to her lease expiring and before we began seriously looking, it was brought up if my partner would be moving in. We all sat down and talked about this and agreed, yes. In that same conversation we reiterated that for us, either of us, to be comfortable living together, her ex could not know the address. I had gotten out of long-term abusive relationship prior to my current partner and would not be putting myself in a toxic environment. She agreed in a fashion of, she didn't want him to know it either. And stated the importance of keeping her kid at the same middle school, so a 3-year commitment. We all thought it would be no problem and agreed. At this point, budget was discussed again. I addressed the fact that my partner would be moving in but we would not need any additional squares, rooms, so rent would be the same regardless. Additionally, we had agreed to 50-50 on utilities and that there were 4 of us, therefore 50-50 still seemed fair. I did say, if the utilities seemed to be higher a problem we could discuss adjusting it. My partner and I had discussed our contributions for several reasons. 1. He was not getting rid of his housing as he provides housing for a disabled relative. 2. This was a slow transition to living together, and while he would be at the rental, it was viewed as more my space should we decide living together was not ideal. In any case, I felt that as we changed no criteria for the rental house, rent staying the same was appropriate. As there were 4 people, it seemed like sharing the utilities was fair, but understood people can be heavier users and he did have some lights for plants, so we were happy to pitch in extra, if needed. Note: bestie cranks heat, so seemed like it would have been a pretty good trade, but either way open to paying a bit extra for utilities. Additionally, I just recently finished classes for a career change and got a new job. As I knew the move-in costs were going to be difficult for me initially, I was getting a small personal loan. After some discussion, I float her part of the move-in costs. We vaguely discuss her paying me back when it works for her. Okay, so we look at houses. Finally find one, and it comes to signing the lease. My friend and I wanted to sign just us. As my partner maintained his own house, I wanted it to be clear this would be my space if anything happened. Additionally, my friend and I had a kind of, we are capable of being independent from our ex's vibe. But as the process continued, we did not have enough income for the rental we wanted. I think my recent graduation and new job was not fully considered because we should have qualified, but after some discussion my partner offered to add himself to the lease. So here we are, moving in, feeling great. If you are still listening, you are a trooper. I can't believe how long this is. Thank you. My partner and I moved in right away and pay for a week early as we didn't have a leasing situation to leave. My friend has recently started dating a new guy and he comes and helps her move. We all go out for food. I ended up having a house-sitting gig and was not home for 2 weeks. In that time this new guy comes over and spends the night and hangs out. My partner tells me they are all getting along and seems like this guy is chill and would be fun for us all to hang out. I come back and we all talk about a movie night or double date night. It seems like everything is going great. Then my friend and that guy start to cool off. We talk about what's going on and after a while it comes out. She wants to see her ex again and she wants him to come here. At first I am just like, what are you doing wanting to be around that guy again? But quickly move into, you are an adult and can go hang out with whoever you like. However, we all agreed he wouldn't know the address, let alone come here. So, no, if you want to see him, go to his place, go out to eat, get a hotel, just not here. She seemed to understand our concerns and while disappointed was moving on from it. This timeline is blurry for reasons I'll get to, so I don't remember if I learned at this point, but they had actually been seeing each other at her old apartment before she moved in. In hindsight, this really bothers me and feels super manipulative. We could have just called it quits before this mess. Anyway, too much information. Miscarriage warning below. Then something massively crazy happens. The next morning, my partner and I wake up and I'm having massive bleeding. I think it's a crazy flow. Mine are unpredictable with polycystic ovary syndrome. I go to work and am stuck in a video Zoom call when I realize I am bleeding through my pants. Not only that, but through the purple seat cushion on my chair. At the end of the meeting I get up, thank God for black pants, and go to the bathroom. I'm bleeding like crazy and more than blood. At this point, I'm not truly aware it's a miscarriage. I'm in denial because I had fertility treatment and 10 years of trying with my ex that never resulted in even a big fat positive. So I'm a crazy terrified mess. I call my partner to tell him I'm going home. I'm home for long enough to get cleaned up and my friend comes downstairs. My partner called her because he was trying to get home but stuck in traffic and wanted me to go to urgent care. I was all, let's give it a day, because I could not fathom what was happening. My friend was like, WTH, get in the car. So she took me to the clinic. My partner met us there. Then I had to go to get a bunch of tests and my friend left to get her kid. Turns out I was actively going through a MIC, but the doctors wouldn't tell me that for another 2 weeks as my hormones still indicated a pregnancy. Fuck my life. My job is a crazy level of responsibility, so I go in the rest of the week working around my appointments. During one of those weeknights, during my miscarriage, a few days after the conversation about my friend's ex, she comes to us to tell us she is an adult and pays half the rent and he will be coming over. I think this really is when I just hit a wall. I told her, yes, you are an adult, you can choose to make any decision you want, but you'll have to live with those repercussions. I do not feel safe with your ex around, I don't want him in the house. I will make choices to maintain my safety. We told you we would not live anywhere he knew about. I felt for her. I had been with an abuser and knew some of the pain of the cycle. The confrontation was a lot for her. She was emotional about it, so I also hugged her while she cried about it. Now at this point they said I could still be preggers, while more likely miscarriage. After my history I'm not taking extra chances. So I also said, especially with this potential pregnancy, I will not live in a toxic, stressful environment. I get enough of that at work. She promises we won't interact with him or see him. Basically he will only be in her room and only for booty calls or sleeping, so we won't even know he is there. I reiterate to her, she is making choices she thinks are best for her despite us, and I will do the same. She went to her room and I talked with my partner about our line. What are we going to do next? I felt torn. I really didn't want to be around this guy. She told me bad things about him that she started to deny when convincing me he was not a threat to me. I should clarify, I don't think he would lay hands on me, but I also don't think I should need to tolerate an abuser of others in our home. He puts hands on other people, mass manipulation, treats his multiple girlfriends that don't know he is cheating on like shit. He uses them all like ATM machines. I can't stand the guy. He makes my blood boil. After everything he did to my friend, I cannot be civil with him. I think it's horrendous that he is around my niece and she has witnessed her mother be treated like garbage. Then it happens he comes over. And of course we are outside, so we see him park and come in. Which, I mean, that wasn't the problem, but just another point of feeling like her words no longer had any meaning. They go out. There are a few times of him coming and picking her up or coming over, and LMAO we always run into him. Then it's a holiday and he stays the night and we notice his car when we go out to run errands. I thought it odd because my friend had a Zoom appointment that I knew she would be in a private room for. We came back early about noon and the car is still there. He ends up leaving around 2 p.m. This really pisses me off. It's been just about a week and a half from, he isn't coming over, to him, here a few times a week, more than one sleepover, leaving late, etc. That afternoon we are all hanging out and during conversation I say something about that appointment being cancelled due to holiday. Nope, she had the appointment and he was just chillin' at our place unsupervised while we were out actively avoiding coming home to hopefully avoid seeing him. She asked if we have changed our minds on the 3 years agreements and renewing the lease. I am paraphrasing myself, we definitely have to think about it now, I am not sure we can commit to 3 years now that he is around. This is basically when things start blowing up. This is a new conversation, her and I alone. She gets upset and says that we are treating him like he is a criminal. Commenting that we leave the house all the time now, which we do. Now something comes up that hadn't before, my partner needing to pay rent. I say we have an agreement and it makes no sense. She has an area of the house with 3 bed, 2 baths, 1 private, 1 hallway. We have an area with 1 bed, 1 bath, hallway, and a shared flex room. We are fair on rent. Full disclosure, we had mentioned my partner applied to other jobs and potential for making more money. My partner and I had talked about the potential, if he made more, to contribute, but it hadn't been formalized because he didn't get those few job offers. She said because there were 3 adults it should be split 3 ways. I pushed back and said we would never had agreed to that because he can't afford it. She mentioned he made more. I corrected her that he didn't get those roles. Had he, we would have discussed it. She basically said he is on the lease now, so he is also responsible, and that she couldn't afford her portion of rent because we might not renew the lease and she will need to cover moving again. Saying that I am the one breaking the agreement, so she didn't account for the added cost of saving for moving so soon. So she could only afford 1/3 rent, she could pay me the 1/2 rent, but I was to use the difference from 1/3 to pay myself back her move-in costs. I told her that her paying less monthly to use the difference to pay me back, does not actually pay me back. She continued that she could not afford it. Then I said if she can't figure it out I'd have to, so I was then to pay 2/3 of rent for a 4-bed, 3-bath place that I had 1 bed, 1 bath. During this conversation she also dropped a bomb on me. Based on my actions and behavior towards her ex now on again BF, she thinks I'm racist. She attributes all the reasons I hate this guy to being microaggressions. I was really shocked. I said if there were things she thought I was doing I want to know about it. I don't feel like anything concerning him had anything to do with that. She stated that treating him like a criminal when he hasn't done anything to harm me personally was a microaggression. She then lied to my face and minimized stuff she told me in their off times about how dangerous he was, guns, gangs, violence towards her and other girls he was with. I also mentioned we didn't have any issues with the other guys she dated. I was trying to explain I don't have an issue with the guy because of his color or assumptions made about him, I have a problem with this guy specifically because of what I know he does from what she has told me. That is not racist. We just kept going in loops. Then she said because her daughter is half black she doesn't think I am safe to be around her daughter. I was stunned. I have loved, cared, and at times provided for that kid since the day she was born. I think I just died a bit at that moment. I feel like I should have fought harder, but how do you fight when a mom tells you you aren't safe for their kid? I will admit I have more to learn, and will always have more to learn. I asked if she had something to tell me about how I was doing anything to harm my niece or the greater community. I wanted to hear it. She then asked what books I've read. You have got to know, I don't read books. I was working long hours most of my career and also have ADHD. I need shorter formats or more dynamic media. I told her, I had not read those books but have been reading articles and participated in research for an equity and diversity committee at a local co-op. But I said I'm always learning more, and if there is something she is seeing, I don't want to be blind or obstinate to that. She continued that because of my treatment for this guy, I am a racist and therefore she doesn't trust me around her kid. She said had she known the ex couldn't be around she wouldn't have agreed to it. I know this was discussed because it happened at the same time she mentioned the 3 years thing. She was pissed that this was causing problems and how we agreed to be there for 3 years. After this point, I knew it was over. I now suddenly had to cover 2/3 of rent and somehow live in a house where a mother didn't want me around her kid. My partner and I talked about different options but ultimately decided to move out ASAP as it was the start of summer. My friend could decide how she wanted to handle school transfer as she hadn't switched yet and would not be going to school for about 2 months. She pretty much blocked us right after that argument prior to us moving out. We found a place within 2 weeks, moved in a day, paid rent at both places and asked when she would be out so they could show the house. She wouldn't let them show the house while she lived there and only paid the 1/3 rent. I maintained the difference and after discussing with the landlord, we paid to break the lease but she maintained paying 1/3 rent while we paid 2/3 until it was rented. She did end up paying a bit extra on some fees at the end. We paid 2/3, if not all, on utilities because they had been in my name. Oh, and at this point she was actually really paying 1/3 not half, with partial going back to repay my move-in costs. She tried to tell me at some point she did pay off the move-in costs, which is totally false. Even if I added up the difference it wouldn't have added up. It still feels like a gut punch. I miss my niece. I don't see her light up on her birthday, Christmas, or other holidays we shared. I don't get to adventure with her and watch her grow up into the kick-ass, smart, amazing woman I know she will become. And, my bestie, the one who I thought was ride or die. She has seen me at my worst and best. We have always been each other's support person, we've been each other's emergency contact, and for my niece too. I am devastated that she could look at me and think I was harmful to her child. And I feel a little crazy, if she ever reached out to me to say, hey, I was in an abuse cycle, that guy sucks, wanna get coffee? I'd be there in a heartbeat. Edit to add. Also yes, I just created this account because if she finds me on here I don't want it tied to my main account.